Good. So again, want to thank everyone for attending season 9 of Environmental Fridays. It is personal. If you'd like to check out our website, you can get to it by the URL list shown here, as well as if you use your phone, you could
Yeah.
take look at the QR code. The QR code would also get you to our website. We'll talk a little bit more about that here coming up soon. Um, so this is our schedule for this semester. We have a rich diversity of speakers and of topics. Here we want to also show that, again, using the QR code at the top left, would get you to all of our guest speakers and co-hosts for this semester, for this season 9. Their photos and bios are there as well, so you could check it out at your convenience. We have now about 137, 138 episodes on YouTube. To get to all of them, here at the bottom right, that QR code will take you there. Again, just zoom in with your camera on your um, phone, and that could take you to our YouTube playlist with all 138, I believe, or 137 episodes. So, also want to recognize some of our partners and co-sponsors. They include the Michigan Eagle Impact Grants, Caribbean Compass, which is a magazine that focuses on travel and the sea and ocean in the Caribbean area. ACS Committee, that stands for American Chemical Society. Committee on Minority Affairs, long-standing partner is the Benton Spirit community newspaper. In fact, is this episode, all episodes now are being live streamed from the offices of the Benton Spirit community newspaper, which actually used to be Al Capone's hideout. Interesting historical fact. And then also we have sponsorship with GC Scored, which is specializes in social emotional wellness and education, right? So this is a deep dive into what's coming for the last episode of October, which comes up next Friday. As I was saying earlier, we'll hear in a bit a preview of um, the 30th United Nations Climate Change Conference. Then early November, we'll be hearing from Jada at a school in Trinidad. Then we'll go switch to University of Florida and have a presentation on citizen science, how citizens could be involved in biodiversity, followed by November 21st, scientist here that deals in biodiversity extension and climate change. So we have some really good topic and persons, experts coming up here um, in the next 4 weeks. Like to keep reminding you that we want to encourage everyone that either participates in the live stream or viewing the episodes on YouTube to send us your feedback. Any feedback, a sentence, 2 sentences, 100 words or less, send them to me, Murray D at environmentalfridays.com, and we'll get them published on our website. So any feedback, any thoughts that you may have, this helps to show the impact of Environmental Fridays. Moving on, today we have two co-hosts, Jehoon Ko and BK Robertson. And so Jehoon is a sophomore at Huron High School in Ann Arbor, Michigan. She's active in the Michigan Youth Leaders for Environmental Sustainability, hence, I think her interest in being a co-host and being part of Environmental Fridays. This organization empowers youth to lead on climate and sustainability issues. And so it's really good to see our young people involved and our youth. In fact, many of them are actual leaders in our society in terms of environmental awareness and environmental action. So we welcome you. There's a lot more we could say about Jehoon, but we'll keep it brief. And then Professor Robertson is a professor of microbiology at Alabama State University. He's also director of their graduate programs in the biological sciences. He chairs the Institutional Biosafety and is Director of Environ Mentors. Could you quickly tell us a little bit about Environ Mentors?
Yes. Environmentals is a program that is funded uh, by well, let me forget who funded first. It's a program designed for high school
Hmm,
students
okay,
to yeah to to steer them into understanding the importance of life in general in their environment. It doesn't matter what area of specialty they're going in. You could be English, but you could be
oh,
an
absolutely.
environmental steward.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good. That's very good. And so let me go back to ask Jay Hoon, do you at Huron High School, is environmental science a actual subject or is it integrated into different subjects? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So there is the Advanced Placement AP Environmental Science course, and I believe
Okay.
there's also an IB Environmental Sustainability course as well. And so those are the two offered at our school.
Okay, that's good. Because there are not a lot of high schools around the country that does have separate sort of environmental subjects. And so that's really good. Very nice. Just to round off, Professor Robertson got his master's and PhD from Cornell, and his specialty there was environmental microbiology and toxicology. So our two co-hosts today are very well suited, positioned, enthusiastic about the environment, and so we are very happy and pleased to have them. At this point, Jehoon will introduce our guest speaker for today.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be introducing today's guest speaker, Ms. Mai Antran. She is a PhD candidate in forest science at Michigan Technological University. Her research explores the intersection of livelihood resilience, indigenous knowledge, and sustainability in natural resource management. Conducted in partnership with the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community and funded by the USDA McIntyre Stennis Program, her dissertation examines the relationship between Ojibwe people and forests in the context of climate resilience. Her broader work spans the US, Vietnam, and South Korea, focusing on forest-dependent livelihoods, reforestation participation, and wildlife conservation. She previously held a graduate fellowship with AFACO and worked as a field researcher at Save Vietnam's Wildlife.
All right.
Mhm. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your wonderful introduction. Just to make sure, can you see my screen?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are seeing your screen. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for Environmental Friday. Today, I want to share with you some of my insight from my research. Also, just want to share a story of how I understand forest science and my own responsibility as a researcher. So let's start. As I'm now living and working at Michigan Tech University, first I want to acknowledge that our university is located within Ojibwa homeland and ceded territory, established by the Treaty of 1842, the said lands and water of Native American nations. So I honor and give thanks to the being that shared this land with me, the past, present, and future. So here where we are going today. I will start with a personal story that shaped my path, then introduce my research partnership. Then I explore what Indigenous knowledge mean, share key insights about forest resilience, and discuss what this means for all of us can work together in environmental fields in partnership with Indigenous people. So I want to begin with my personal story. I was 23 years old. I'm in Hoa Binh, Vietnam. Is in my hometown, in the north of Vietnam, for my undergrad study. It is the middle of August, so it's very hot. Just give you a context, I'm doing my undergraduate study. So I'm just buzzing around on the tiny moped, and my skin is just bright red and sunburned. The road are wide. Sometimes it just disappear into a creek, and I hit a flooded patch and lose my balance and fall right into the stream, and I would be soaking wet, covered in mud. But at the time, I didn't care about that much. I was so excited. Why? Because I was finally here to use all of my cool techniques or statistical methods I had learned in university. And I have my clipboard with me, I have my theory, I have my questions. I was going to figure out how to encourage people to plant more trees for my hometown. As you can see on the screen, there's a picture of my hometown with a lot of tree being cut down, and they were spent for planting the fruit farm. So I was excited about my first big project, and the people, they were incredible, so generous, so helpful. They see my red sweaty face and my wet clothes, and they invited me for the tea. So it's good. They gave me a gift, like fresh orange, pomelo, guava from their farm. They answered every single question that I had. I was as one of the farm, sitting with a farmer who has been working in this land his entire life. So we just finished the interview. I'm picking up my note, feeling great, thinking, wow, this is going well. My research is brilliant. And then at the time, he looked at me, not in a mean way, just curious, very calm. And he asked me a question that I just stopped me in my track. And then he said, this project you are doing, what is this for? What happened at the end after you leave? And I put on my chest and all academics and proud and say, oh, it's to understand how to encourage people to plant more trees, like to reforestation. It's for environment. And the farmer just not very patiently. He looked at his fruit farm, and then he think, and he looked at me and he say, we know planting tree good. He say, we live here and we see the land when it flooded. We want a good future for our, we want a good future for our children. But then he say, but let me tell you my problem. My family can plant 1 hectare of forest, wait 5 years and earn 15 million Vietnam dong. So it's about like 600 US dollar. Or we can plant fruit tree on the same land and earn 200 million Vietnam dong this year. Like 9,000 USD. We have to feed our family. We have to send our children to school. And then he paused. He asked me the question that changed my entire career. He said, so your research, will it help us to find the answer for our problem? And in that second, I just froze. I had no answer. And I realized that my research wasn't for him or for the local people. It was for me. It was for my study. Actually, I was hoping to get an academic paper out of it. So why I'm telling you this story? Because that man on that fruit farm in Vietnam taught me the most important lesson of my entire career. He taught me that research can be a helicopter where we can fly in and get our data and fly it out to publish an article. He taught me that our work, whatever it is, must start with the community. So it has to answer their question, not just our question, and it has to respect their reality. So that man in his honest questions is a reason I do the work I do today. The works that build on the partnership, on respect, and on the serving the real needs of the community from the ground up. So that experience led me directly to my current research context. I'm now privileged to work here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in partnership with the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community, or KBIC. You can see on the map, KBIC home territory and city territory cover a vast area. So KBIC is the oldest and largest federally recognized tribe in Michigan, recognized in the Treaty of 1842 and 1854 treaty. So their relationship with the land is deep, and Asian stewardship vast forest land and more than 70 miles of Lake Superior. And the research I do with KBAC guided by the central question: how can Indigenous science and Western science work together to strengthen forest resilience? And this question is critically urgent. Why now? Because climate change is accelerating, as you know, because we are facing biodiversity loss, accelerating biodiversity loss, because there is a growing recognition that Western scientific approach on their own are insufficient to solve this problem, and because there are finally long overdue call for reconciliation between Westerns, the settler and Indigenous people, and the recognition of Indigenous people as established leader in environmental stewardship. So when we talk about reaching this system, we have to first ask, what is Indigenous knowledge? And it's a complex term. So here's a table I take from my paper published this year. I was doing a review, and we found that there are a lot of terms related to Indigenous knowledge. Just during 20 years, at least like 23 different terms were used in academic literature to describe it. So Indigenous knowledge is a very broad and holistic system that includes law, language, story, ceremony, and practice. And there are some kind of like similarity and kind of different term between it, and some specific term like fisher knowledge, traditional fire knowledge, or Ojibwe knowledge, like for specific group of people. But the more important thing to understand is that Indigenous knowledge is the broad thing. I will come back with that question later. Okay, so this system has several characteristics that I want to put in here to distinguish it from the Western side. First of all, it's relational. Knowledge comes from relationship with the land, the water and all being. Human, when I said all being, I mean both human and more than human, is a place-based. That means it is specific to a particular territory and ecosystem. Is intergenerational. Is it passed down to generation, primary to oral tradition and practice? Is it holistic? That means everything is connected. Nothing exists in isolation. Is it dynamic? It's not stuck in the past, is continuously generated and adapted through life experience, and it's ethical because it's embedded with values and responsibility for how we are to live in the world and be in the good relationship with the other beings. So here the question that I promise to come back. So in science, we often hear the term traditional ecological knowledge, or TEK. It's vital to understand that indigenous knowledge is broader than TEK. As I took out a diagram from the author Red and Barnes this year, and then you can see that TEK is the core component, often focused on ecological relationship. But indigenous knowledge also includes governance, law, philosophy, spirituality, and social organization, all held together by language, story, practice, and ceremony. So when we reduce indigenous knowledge to just traditional ecological knowledge, we reach this thing is at the data to be extracted and plugged into Western management framework. So indigenous knowledge systems are the complete unto themselves. They don't need Western validation to legitimate and valuable. So now we come to the question, what do we mean by bridging knowledge? So this is the critical question, because they often talk about integrating knowledge. Before I come to the graduate study, I often use the word integrating knowledge, and my advisor just remind me a lot of using bridging instead of integrating. Why? Because bridging is different. It means creating a space where multiple knowledge systems can coexist. It's maintaining its integrity and validity. Sometimes knowledge systems align and can inform each other. Sometimes they run parallel, and sometimes they conflict, and that's okay. We only bridge the knowledge in the way that's respectfully and in the way that can get the consent from the indigenous people. The bridge allows us to understand each other, communicate, and work together without requiring that the one system subsume the other. That's the reason why I want to put it here, as I think it's important. One powerful framework for bridging comes from the Mi'kmaq elders, Albert and Modena, called Etwop Mook, or two-eye seeing. This teaches us to see from one eye with the chance of indigenous knowledge and way of knowing, and the other eyes with a chance of Western knowledge and way of knowing, and to use both eyes together for the benefit of all. For example, in the Western science, people often talk about the word resilient, like the ability to spring back after a shock or after a very critical and difficult time. But in indigenous knowledge, like in Ozipwamoin, people use the word like living in the wood way with the other beings. Or, for example, in the Western science, we're often talking about wildlife, like the wild, but in Ozipwamoin, there no word for the wild, because everything, like including human, we are the nature, we are the part of nature, so there no word for the wild. And another critical concept that I want to talk here is the concept from Maori scholar Wehi Hana, who described research relationship using the preposition to, for, with, by, as. So my story from Vietnam was a perfect example of research. To, for, it was attractive, colonial, and harmful, even if my intention were good. Many academics have tried to move research to research with, which is collaborative, but often it remains Western-led with the Western question and Western priority. So where we must go and what to I seeing demand is research by us. This is research that's indigenous-led, where indigenous priority, value, and timeline are centered from the very beginning. So here I want to introduce to you the Season of Research framework. This is the framework that is guided by Medicine Will Teaching. It's developed by my college in her research partnership with Keweenaw Bay Indian community. So as you can see, beginning in the east, from the relationship building and moving clockwise to planning and prioritization, knowledge exchange, and synthesis and application, the guidance shows how research partnership with, by, for the community demonstrate respect, honor, reciprocity, responsibility, and reverence for shared land, water, and all living beings. So I'm going to introduce each step of the season of the research. So the first season, and I think is the most important one, is relationship building. This cannot be rushed. It doesn't happen in one meeting. It's not a checkbox. So it's about building trust to consistent presence. It's about building shared understanding, voice, and experience. It often happens outside the formal work setting, and it must involve acknowledging the painful colonial history of research. So for me, I spent, let's say, more than 1 year. The first year of my research is just focused on relationship building to create and sustain shared understanding of the place, community, with the community and with the other living on the land here in the Upper Michigan. I start by learning Indigenous way of knowing, the history, all the treaty right, the reciprocity relationship between human and other being. I build relationship with the land by learning landscape history, the plant. Like in here in the Upper Michigan, we have a long history about the copper mining, about the plant name, the species here, to feel honored and grateful for being present and cared for by other beings. And I remember like 4 years ago when I started this journey, I often take my son out to the forest every day with me. He can identify some mushroom species, even though he was 1 year old. And now when he draws some picture, like I remember the other children would draw like the mountain with some flower in the bottom, but he draws some mountains and sky and then some mushroom at the bottom, and it's very cute. So the season 2, only after that trust is established and you can move into the second season, is the planning and prioritization. This is where my Vietnamese research failed, because in this model, the community priority comes first. That means the research goal must align with what the community needs, not just what the academic wants for their next paper. This is where you co-develop ethics, a shared vision, and establishes equitable practice and form agreement like the research protocol. For me, I start connecting with KBAC departments, with Natural Resources Department and Forestry Department, right from where I enrolled the PhD program. As my advisor constantly reminded me that what I'm doing here is a research partnership. between Mayang and KBAC, not Mayang research. So I choose to connect and communicate right with KBAC right from the beginning. So for this project, I use different kind of methods like ethnographic methods to learn to observe and listen to other KBAC different KBAC event and talk with KBAC members. We also have focus group discussion and monthly meeting with KBAC department to share what the community would like me to pursue and what I can contribute to the project and learn from the others' guidance and suggestion. So my entire, I can say that my research topic and the methods all get guidance from the community and come from community need and concern and priority. So third season in knowledge exchange, this is an ongoing process, not a one-time data collection event. It focuses on recognizing the equity of all knowledge systems. It requires to remain curious and humble, and it requires to recognize that what we learn from the more than human world, from the water, from the tree, from the forest, from the animal, who are also knowledge holder. Yeah, so being humble and share multiple ways, not only one way. And the fourth seasons is synthesis and application. This is about sharing the work, but sharing must prioritize the community benefits. It means respecting Indigenous data stewardship and sovereignty. The community own and control their data. The output are often not just academic paper. For me, I like science communication, and I enjoy sharing my research through writing, having a talk, or teaching. But it can happen in many forms, like art, storytelling, policy recommendations. All of these are valid and necessary. I want to be honest about the challenges we face in this work. First of all, institutional barriers are real. Western funding timeline don't align with the time needed for relationship building. Funding reviews often don't understand Indigenous methodology. University require PhD or faculty position, including many Indigenous knowledge holder. So they prioritize like credibility in the work, or sometimes like the second thing is power imbalance persists because Western institutions typically hold the funding and make the final decision and control the output. So we have to actively work against the structure by share credit, share the power. Actually, the community holds the power. And then Western academic reward system don't value process, relationship, or non-academic output. Researcher can actually be penalized for doing this work well, too long. So for example, I have the pressure to publish the paper, to produce the results. Meanwhile, most of the researchers who work with Indigenous community have to build relationship like for like the first and the second year, we spend our time to build relationship. So it is a challenge. The another thing is this place an immense burden on Indigenous community and scholars who are constantly asked to share. That's what I mean. And frankly, most non-Indigenous researchers, like my 23 years old self, simply lack the training to do this work in a good and respectful way. So for any young researcher who just step in this kind of work, they need a lot of guidance and training. So the challenges toward that we need systemic change. We need to transform our institution, and we are seeing promising changes like more flexible funding, the hiring more Indigenous faculty. I was looking for job nowadays, and I was happy to see that more and more job related to hiring Indigenous scholar, some position related to building knowledge. So I was very happy about that. and new university policy on community partnership, but we have a very long way to go. So after all that, the story, the framework, the challenges, what does this bridging knowledge teach us about forest resilience? First and more important, insight that I can think is that forests are relations, not resources. Indigenous science view forests as relative, as a community, a being with agency, not just a resource to be managed or like a timber to be extracted. They have reciprocal relationship with the human. So this is perfectly captured in the concept of honorable harvesting, described by the scholar Robin Wokimura with the book Breeding Switchgrass. I don't know if you have read it, but I just take a picture of what the honorable harvest mean. They include, okay, ask permission before taking, abide by the answer, never take the first, never take the last, never take more than half, leave some for the others, and give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. So this is the management plan built on gratitude and respect, sustaining the one who sustained you. And is a very popular and is the protocol that many indigenous community use when it's come to interacting and building the relationship with the other being. The second thing that I think, because when I teach the students at my university, people often talking about like, for example, topic of invasive species or the wildfire, right? So the second thing I want to put in here is that indigenous science had a fundamental different understanding of disturbance compared to the Western science. So for the Western forestry had often focused on preventing disturbance. So they fire suppression, for example. The goal has been to maintain forests in the stable state. But indigenous forestry recognize that disturbance is the part of healthy forest relationship. Fire is not an enemy, is the tool and is the relative. For example, Anishinaabe people have used prescribed burning for thousands of years to promote berry production, create diverse habitat, and strengthen forest health. Similarly to selective harvesting, creating forest gap, and other practices that Western science might call disturbance are actually ways of maintaining reciprocal relationship in increasing diversity. And I'm sure that I have reviewed the other episode of Environmental Fridays, and I know some of the episodes talking about that. The third one is indigenous science operates on completely different time scale than Western management. For example, the concept of 7 generation principle is the idea that our decision today must affect the life of the 7 generations after us, both past and the future, that 150 to 200 years into the future and 150 and 200 years into the past. When you're thinking on that scale, you can be too quick to make decisions. You can be impulsive. You observe pattern over lifetime. You accumulate knowledge across generations. You are being patient. You recognize that forests change slowly and that quick fix often create new problems. So this is exactly what we need for climate change adaptation. Climate change is happening over the decade or century. A Western management plan typically run for like 5, 10 years, maybe 20 years. But indigenous science have been observing and adapting to environmental change for thousands of years. That's the long-term perspective is crucial for resilient strategy and adaptation strategy. Fourth is the place-based specificity. Indigenous knowledge is specific to place, in not a set of generalized best practice. Like that, like this, they're saying like they're no one fit all. So is it born from an intimate long-term relationship with a specific landscape? This directly challenged the Western scientific drive for scalable solution. This knowledge teach us that the solution of our forest in the UP is not the same as the solution in Vietnam or in Arizona. The land itself teach us if we listen. So, for example, I put a quote in here, like in the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, the community identify themselves as the fishing community. Why? Because the community live dependent on fish or berry. So they define themselves as the fishing community or the berry nation. Instead, there's a lot of mine up here, the mining activity up here. And then where I live is actually the Houghton County. So the Houghton come from the name of a geographer, come from the settler, and then he come here and he make a map, and then this county called Houghton. But the community they identify as the fishing community or the land of the berry, and it's totally different concept, and it's the place by what I mean by place by specificity. Fifth, indigenous science doesn't separate ecological health from cultural and spiritual health. They are inseparable. I did a survey to see what are the difference between non-indigenous and indigenous people in the way that they perceive about the cultural dimension. And what I found is that non-tribal people often talking about term of recreation more, like the benefit that they got from the forest coming from recreation, the ecological service like the fresh air or the clean water. But for the indigenous people, they're talking more about the spiritual. If they have enough, like can people still harvest medicine? Are the plants are important for ceremony, thriving? Can elders still teach young people traditional skill in the forest? Is the language that is why relationship with a specific place being kept alive? That's important for the indigenous people. And for me, true forest resilience isn't about biodiversity count or carbon sequestration. It's about the health of relationship between the forest community and the other being that can help them sustain their resilience. And finally, and perhaps another important thing is we found that partnership process itself builds the resilience, not just the forest, but community and its institution. When we engage in genuine, equitable partnership, we build capacity in multiple directions. Community members gain access to resources, technology, or institutional connection that support their goals. Western institution and researchers learn new approach and gain humility. That's important as well. Network are created that can support future work. So young people from indigenous communities see research as something that can lead, not just something done to them, not something that being attractive and harmful to the community. So slowly institutions begin to change their policy and practice. So this is why the process matters as much as the finding. We're not just studying forest resilience, we're building the human relationship and institutional structure that will allow us to effectively steward forest for generations to come. So what does this mean for forest management? It means we must move beyond constellation and include indigenous knowledge holder in actual decision making. It means we must expand our time horizon for planning, thinking in generation. Management plan should look like more than 100 years ahead, not just like 10 or 20 years. It means we must recognize forest and living community, not just timber resources. It means we support indigenous led stewardship and must commit to long-term partnership, not short-term project. So what it means for all of us, whether we are forest manager or not, is a call to recognize that we all have relationship with the land and water, whether we are, whenever we are, and is a call to support indigenous sovereignty and leadership. Indigenous sovereignty is an inherent right of indigenous people to govern themselves, to control their own lands and resources, and to maintain their unique control. So it also a call to practice humility and learn to listen to not only from the other community, but from the modern human world as well. And it is also the call to think in 7 generations ahead. So I come to the final slide. If you remember only 3 things from today, I hope it would be like indigenous knowledge is certificated rigorous and absolutely essential for addressing complex environmental challenges. Bridging the knowledge system is not a simple technical task. It's deeply relational one that requires time, humility, and genuine relationship building. And finally, this work must be done in a way that centers indigenous sovereignty, data sovereignty, and mutual benefit. And when I think about my story, when I tell you in the beginning, you see the farmer in Vietnam show me what happened when we fail to do this. And my partner at KBAC teaching me how we can and why we must do it right. And then, thank you, Miwek. I would be happy to take any question.
Wow. This was really good. BK,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, wow, wow, wow.
I know, I know. It
What a
is.
beautiful, beautiful presentation.
Yep.
You make me learn some things about forest that that I thought I knew a lot about forest. But that's very good, and I'm looking at it from the indigenous point. Yeah, that was my curiosity. How are you going to relate this indigenous knowledge with foreign resilient, forest resilient, and with our Western knowledge,
Yeah, that's
and I see how well you try to align them, and how the challenges, how some of the challenges were overcome. So look, going to COP 32, where all of the heads of states and or their representatives are going to be over there. If you were called upon to give a presentation to the world, especially that have to do with considering the current climate change, what advice would you give those industrialized nations that are causing all this climate hazard?
so the question is what advice I would give to the nation that does cause a lot of damage to the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that question give me a flashback to a conversation that I just heard from the indigenous holder. So one question was like, what should we do now? And then the Ozipwa knowledge holder said the first thing we must do is to work together and don't think about who should we blame to, because when we start doing that, we not really start reconcile our relationship anymore. The second thing is that learning from indigenous knowledge and the philosophy that they have relationship with the land, building the relationship is very important. And it actually changed myself in the way that I approach doing research. And it also changing my worldviews about how I think about relationship between me and the land. So there are 2 things. So start listening to the indigenous knowledge, learning from them. And I know this, I didn't mention this in my talk, but one thing that that I put in my dissertation, and I have a talk with my college in Vietnam, is that we have something like intelligent quotient, IQ, and emotional quotient, like EQ, to manage to solve a lot of problem in our life. But the things that we miss when it comes to solving the problem from healing the relationship with the earth is nation quotient, like nation quotient, nature quotient, like something like, okay, one person, how can we explain if one person is really intelligent? For example, I don't know if I should say this, but for example, like our President Donald Trump, he very intelligent, he certainly very emotional intelligent. But when it comes to the fixing relationship with the earth, how can we explain that why he keep doing like making decisions that harmful for the earth? And we put the concept of nature quotient, talking about the quotient that creating the relationship with the earth. And we think that by making the nature quotient also important as intelligent quotient, like emotional quotient, and to put it in the education, it will make a lot of impactful for the way that we approach education. So that's what we think.
I know, right? That just is a
Thank you, man.
completely different way of
Oh,
thinking about
yeah.
nature quotient. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, like, whichever university hires you, whichever students sit in your classes, does research, they are going to be getting the best of the best. Oh my
Yep,
gosh, you
I agree with that.
you are awesome.
Thank you.
Yep, you're definitely awesome. And I think there was a question from Rollback. I think Dr. Murray, you see you were gonna ask that
Oh yeah, Roback,
question.
he had to leave, John.
Yeah.
He wanted to know if you learned from the collaborations of Australia with the Indigenous people on managing fire safety.
Yeah, so I actually didn't work with Indigenous people in Australia. I work with local people in Upper Michigan. But then again, a lot of students in my class, they talking about the cultural practice. And in here in Upper Michigan, people also, the Indigenous people also use the cultural burning as well. And there's one story that I want to tell you, like in here, I don't know if you know chaga. Some people are very um, real like chaga for the tea. They think that it can treat cancer or something like that. And then the indigenous people, they know how to get the chaga happen in the forest by the control burning. That's one of the knowledge that we have to learn from indigenous knowledge. And there are many benefits coming from control burning as well. And I mean, it's interesting topic, and it have a lot of things to talk about. If yeah.
Sure. Okay. For the sake of time, there are two questions. One from Gustine and one from Della. I think they'll probably be our last two questions.
We could do some more. That's
Oh, we
okay.
can do some more?
Yeah, we
Okay,
could do more. Oh
okay.
yeah.
The question from Gustine wants to know.
I think she's still here if she w
Oh,
wants.
if she's still there, then she can go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I'm still
ahead.
here.
Okay. Go ahead.
Uh,
Go ahead.
what is the response from the indigenous people to the extreme wildfires out in the West? United States specifically. Since part of the reason why they are such bad fires is because of our Western-based land management practices. Have they taken an active approach? Have they taken a hands-off approach? Have they made suggestions, or have they been involved at all?
Thank you for your questions. First of all, I have to admit that my research is not really go deep into the wildfire. But then I do a survey. In one of my survey, I just ask people about their concern and hope for the future of forest. And a lot of people putting their concern for wildfire. And there are some suggestions coming from that. For example, like thinking about they hope that there will be more collaboration between indigenous people and the institution for increasing the knowledge that we can work together in control the wildfire. But then again, my research didn't go deep into the wildfire to able to give you an exact answer about that.
So there is a hand, Bridget. You have a question too or comment?
I certainly do. First of all, wow.
I know we are all saying wow.
Absolutely, absolutely splendid to be I felt like someone held my hand and walked me through social, economic, spiritual,
Yep. She
my
brought them all
my
together.
health perspective, etc., etc. So my question is, what is the posture, the social posture of needing, wanting, requesting financial aid from a power structure that has dominated, if not destroyed, indigenous practices or indigenous perspectives? In other words, why not embrace what has been done successfully forever, with the exclusion financial, I just want to sit on that a little bit, financial interaction or obligation of dominant visitors to the land.
Yeah. So your question is about like why we don't just adopt indigenous knowledge, why we need to bridge them. And it's all come to the thing that the Western knowledge know that they think that they know the best, like to think about economic development, for example, like that, to think about like how to industrialize, how to like to make money out of it. And then they are not really willing to give up that way of approaching to the forest or to the nature. And then that's the reason why there's a lot of movement to call for shifting to indigenous way of thinking and knowing, and to practice to practice the indigenous knowledge. And that's give the concept of two-eye seeing, or the concept of breeding knowledge and bridging knowledge, because the way that, as we can see now in the policy, there are a lot of policy focusing on extracting knowledge. There are a lot of perspective on how to approach with the relationship. We're not seeing the same thing. So that's the reason why. And I think in the way that I working with indigenous people, they are very generous actually. It's my privilege to work with the community that I'm working right now. And I've been volunteering in some cultural events. For example, last 2 weeks, I've been volunteer in the Manuman camp, white rice camp, and all the participants, when they welcome from non-indigenous people, everyone who would like to join, just join them, and they are willing to teach everyone the knowledge, join them in the practice of how to prepare the rice, how to dry dancing, and people go home with knowledge and the gift from the community. It's really meaningful, and the community willing to work on that. And a lot of people just left the event with very like happy smile and full of heart, full of gratitude, and I think like that's
Yes, I agree with you,
yeah.
and I look forward to your research or anyone's that concludes or that supplies or serves us with a nature intelligence survey
A nature
where we can
quotient.
measure,
Yeah,
points of when you
nature,
have that.
that's
And
a
I
Yeah.
appreciate you
really
so
cool
much.
concept,
Yeah,
Thank
nature
you.
thank you
quotient.
so much.
Thank you.
So, Jehoon, you want to?
Yeah, so thank you for the talk. I think the point you mentioned about like how you approach research was really interesting, and like I hadn't really heard about indigenous focused research, and so like I think I learned so much. I wanted to ask because you mentioned about like relationship building in the first year of approaching research, and like there being like lots of cultural aspects and like partnerships with place specificity. I cannot speak, sorry. But approaching it at a local level, I wanted to know is there a practical approach that you found like particularly effective? Because I understand that it must be really hard to like get started with everything.
Yes, that's very important and very good questions. Thank you for your question. So the approach that I find, I've been working with a lot of community in Vietnam, and the approach often like I have to say different community have different approach that we need to learn before we come and interact with them. And we have to do our homework in knowing the best way to do that. But the most important thing is to be humble, to be respectful when we are interacting with the community. The second thing is that, yeah, I mean, by doing the homework, you need to know like the cultural aspect, what is um the way of like the control. Yeah. So the second thing that I want to talk about is if you are very new to the relationship building, you should seek out for existing relationship. For example, I start building my relationship very successful from the start because my advisor already have been in relationship with the community for like 15 years. So she has been building a relationship for a long time. She have worked with the KBAC Natural Resources Department and Forestry Department. And she have a lot of students to connect with the community and to work with community. Not only myself, I am her student, but the other student, like undergrad student who would like to do volunteer to get a sense of like what the community are doing, and they want to do the collaboration with community. They come to her and they ask for her guidance, and she would be willing to make connection with someone she knows from the community. So the third things that I do is to do volunteer work. To be honest, I start by contacting. I first doing the connection with the community when I do volunteer for Dynamite Hill Farm. Is the sugar boost that they producing maple syrup, maple sugar right from the farm with the indigenous knowledge and everything with the community. Then I've been able to go there, and they are very friendly. And then I'm able to learn from them, to work with them, and share, laugh, share, a hug, and then to build a connection at the personal level, and to be and being present. I go to all the community events, be present, so people get kind of like, oh, that person from Vietnam. And then they know my family, they see my face and be familiar with my presence. So, and for me, I also work with the KBAC Nature Department and Forestry Department. So at the government level, they also know me as well. So that kind of like being present, being in connection with community, being resourceful. That's what I learned, like being resourceful if the community need, to being volunteer there, and it would be awesome. Like come there, and if you have any gift from, like I make kimchi, and sometimes I share with them as well, and it's wonderful, like to practice what you learn. So that's what I learned to build a relationship in the best way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So something I would like to do before Laurel asks a question or make a statement is I know in addition to Jaehoon that we have several other students on this episode, on this call. And I just wanted to see how many of them are here with us. I know Carrie. Carrie, you are a biology student in Tobago and Trinidad. I think she's still there. Carrie Adams. Are there
Hi, yes,
other?
I'm here.
Yes,
I was
yes.
just
So
trying
you
to
are
get my mic
biology.
on.
Huh?
I was just trying to get my mic on.
Yeah, so you are a biology student.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, what tell us a little bit more.
So I'm a biology student in the University of the Southern Caribbean that's located in Trinidad, that's in the Caribbean, and I have an emphasis in biomedical studies.
Okay. Yeah, we've worked together on different projects, so it's good to see you on here. Who, and again, in addition to Carrie, in addition to Jehoon, which other students, what other students do we have here online now? I saw I saw Jada earlier. Jada is gonna be giving us a talk in about 2 weeks. She's a student at a school, high school in Trinidad. Any other students here? Raise your hand, introduce yourself. Okay. So Laurel.
Yes, thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. And I just wanted to, it's more of a comment, but aligned with something that you said is they're so kind when you work with Indigenous or tribal communities. And, for years, I've been blessed really to be able to do some tribal environmental health education and worked with Dene College, Navajo College. And it's a life-changing experience because when we talk about colonialism and the terrible things that our ancestors did, maybe not mine because I'm from Eastern Europe, but the founders of this country were not the founders of this country. They were pirates, basically, people that just took and damaged people's land, took their culture, put them in boarding schools, cut their hair, took away anything tribal. The saying was get the Indian out of the Indian,
Hmm.
and caused generational, epigenetic changes. And
Hmm.
I every time that I get to teach a class or work with students, very often, or tribal officials, they'll say, "Thank you for caring about our people." And it breaks my heart because I think the only form of reparations that we could do is invest in these communities, save their land from the damage that our predecessors did,
Hmm.
and thank them for being willing to work with us and share some of their culture. And so it's sort of a hallmark of my own career when we can blend Western science with tribal science, tribal ecosystem knowledge. And so I encourage everybody to think about, when we talk about, for example, reparations, that's investing in areas that have historically been damaged due to terrible practices, whether they're indigenous, people of color, and it can really be life-changing. So if you're in school, partner with a tribal college or it's tribal colleges and university, including outside of US. So
Mm-hmm.
Pacific Islanders, Hawaiians, any tribal indigenous population, I would really encourage the students to take this up as a class activity or independent study. I always say if you want anything done, give it to a high school student. So, and maybe an undergraduate, but you know, I think that could change the world, really.
Yeah, it sure
You-
could.
Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation.
So the other thing, Laurel,
Thank
that
you.
I think this would resonate with you is that her four seasons, 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are exact that was part the way she framed it was this is part of a research framework. But that those
Yes,
are exactly what you do in community engagement. Exactly.
exactly.
It's
Build that trust,
exactly.
and it can
Yes.
take years, years and years.
Yep.
Um, but once you become kind of almost a welcomed part of the community.
Hmm. Yep.
Yes, that's yeah. Thank you so much for your so kind comments and reflections. I mean, I was thinking about that as well. I was thinking about like it's make me so happy to work with community because I can be able to produce like not only my curiosity but also like something meaningful project. Um, and I learned so much from that process as well. The other thing that I was thinking is that um, like to be a better humans in relationship with the other being, to think about our action and to be a good ancestor for our future generation.
Hmm.
Um, that important as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
like
So, mhm.
yeah.
So do we have other persons that have questions, comments? We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to say their piece.
There's a couple more questions in the chat, I think.
Yeah. So Jared, is he still on?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here.
You could go ahead and make your comment.
Yeah, so first of all, as a Michigan Tech alum, you make the university very proud. Happy to be able to listen to this and looking forward to reading into your research more. I had a question regarding the Copperwood mine planned by the Porcupine Mountains, and if you interacted with the tribe at all regarding their feelings on that.
Yeah. Actually, my research is not about the copper mine, but I've been working with one research project about the oral history. Um, so in the oral history with the professor Carol McLennan, I'm not sure if you know about her, but then her project is about like learning the impact of the mining activity at the yellow patch or the eagle uh, I think like the impact of mining to the community. And for the community, the land is the sacred the area where the community go there, they put the tobacco down and they do the ceremony sometimes they interact with the other being for their spiritual being, spirituality. And those mining activity actually harmful to the community, not at the health level, like from the stand from the sense stem, but also to the cultural aspect as well. So I think it in both level, the health and the cultural aspect and spirituality. I'm not sure if I answer your question.
So
Yeah,
do you have, could you say again the name of the person? This is a person at Michigan Tech that works and does research in this area, the Copperwood mine.
Yeah, so her name is Carol let me check.
Car
Carol McLean.
McLean.
Yeah, Carol McLean. She is a professor, sociocultural anthropologist.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, at Michigan Tech. You
Good,
can
good.
contact her for more insight.
Okay, good, very good. All right. Anybody else has comments, questions? Pat, Len, Princess.
I do have a real quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
As far as farming is concerned, have you noticed any of our farmers embracing indigenous ways to heal the soil that Western practice tends to strip of nutrients?
Can I get one example from Vietnam? Like in here, because here in Upper Michigan, I only work with people on the forest relationship basics. I didn't go to the farming activity. But I know like in Vietnam, we have 54 ethnic communities. And for example, in my hometown, one ethnic community, Dao people, they often use a technique called slash and burn. And for generations, they keep doing that and to sustain their life and livelihood. But then, as the Westernized, thinking about that's the dominant of Western science, also not only dominated, like they dominated the whole world, and Vietnam also influenced by the knowledge and thinking by the Westernized thinking dominated. So the government of Vietnam keep blaming the indigenous people for destroying forests, for like, and they ban the slash and burn practice, and it's harmful for the indigenous people. And I think that's kind of approach, kind of like popular to everywhere.
Yeah,
From
I've heard of that
yeah,
before where we've stepped in and tried to keep them from, we do that in the Amazon as well,
yeah,
where you're trying to keep people from slashing and burning, but that's their livelihood, and we haven't propped them up in any other way to keep them from doing that. So, I don't know what we expect of them.
yeah. And then for a long time they haven't practiced that practice, and it's come natural for them to forget their knowledge because they don't use it anymore. And then it's terrible. And when something like catastrophic happen, like very inclement weather happens, then we don't know what else or what other solution we can do.
Do you see that a lot where indigenous cultures have forgotten some of their ways because Western culture has stepped in and kept them from practicing those things?
Yes, a lot. I see it either in Vietnam or in the United States. For example, in the United States, when I talk with the indigenous people, people say, even my language, I don't even know how to say my language. Like I cannot talk like even though I learned some word, but I have no one to practice with me, something
Mhm.
like that. Even their language was forgotten.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen.
Yeah.
Mhm. So we're getting to the end here. It's getting close to 11. But one last question slash comment. You mentioned really quickly in passing something about guavas in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Could you tell, because I'm from the Caribbean, so I know what guavas look like, what they taste like, and all of that. Could you like tell me, is Vietnam like has a lot of these sort of tropical fruits? What other fruits do you?
We have a lot of tropical fruit. We have
Okay.
my family in Vietnam. My father plant a lot of fruit tree in our gardens. We have guava. We have um, long longan. We have lychee. We have jackfruit. We have dragon fruit.
Dragon fruit.
We
Okay.
yeah, we have
What about
mango.
mangoes?
Yeah, we have mango. We have a lot of mango.
Okay.
Yeah, we have like all kind of
Okay.
food. Consider like we sustain ourselves.
I need to go to
And
Vietnam.
yeah, and even me, I go to the trees and sell fruit when I was 5 years old.
Oh,
We have
wow.
so much of the fruit, and then when I was 5 years old, my parents just give me a like whole buckets of fruit, and then I would carry it along the trees and go to the market,
Oh,
flip to sell the fruit.
okay.
Um,
You
yeah.
have plums? Plums? You have plums?
Yes, we have plum.
Oh, wow. That sounds like back home in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I didn't really fully realize what you guys have there in Vietnam. Okay. Well, again, want to thank you. Want to thank Jehoon. We want to thank BK. He had to take off. But we also want to thank our audience, everyone that was on here. I know I learned a lot, not just sort of like information type thing, but uh, attitude, mindset that she brought to us. And I was taking a lot of notes. I wrote down all the 4 seasons, then I wrote down all of the 6 points that you had too about forest as relation and partnership and so on. This was really, really good. And it's um, the type of presentation, type of information that could actually change your thinking. And I really, really appreciate. I mean, like, I never did you coin that phrase nature quotient? Like,
Uh,
that's really cool. To
that's my mentor actually. My mentor,
okay.
my college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because all know IQ and EQ, but you introduced to me, and I'm pretty sure to others here, NQ, nature quotient. This
Yeah.
was really good. Thank you so, so very much. When do you graduate? Or you think
Well,
you might be done? I know, I
I
know.
I will actually I will have my defense on Monday.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, Monday next week, and then I'm good to go.
Okay, yeah. So we send you good vibes. We know you will be successful and hope you really success also in searching for a job. And hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Thank you so much for welcoming me and all of your kind and very nice comments. I
Yes,
appreciate it a lot.
thank you. All right. So again, next week we will be hearing a preview of the United Nations Climate Change Conference. And so hopefully a lot of you will show up for that Environmental Fridays. So again, if it's Friday, it's Environmental Fridays. It is personal. Thank you so very much.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Bye-bye.
so much,
A wonderful
everyone.
week. Be safe out there.
Yes.
That was absolutely fantastic.
I
And
know.
I have a whole list of words that I have here that I kind of have. It was incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed that today. And
Yes,
it just shows the importance of understanding the relationship instead of going in and saying, I know, you learn from me. No, you
right,
have to learn to
exactly.
listen. Thank you very
Exactly.
much. It was a great meeting. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Pat. Yes, yes, it was. All right. See you guys later next week, Friday. We'll get this episode posted before the weekend is out.